Good afternoon, Facebook Live. It is Uncle Foncular Jones, Radio 1 Facebook Live for this Friday, December 8th. And the bottom line is, it is time to get out and vote. And we're all about truth in politics this afternoon. And I have two distinguished gentlemen that are going to encourage us, give us a little history on the absolute importance of the race here in Harris County, Texas. My good friend, the president of the Houston chapter, Judson Robinson, CEO of the Houston Area Urban League. Welcome to Magic 102.1, 97.9 The Box, Radio 1 Facebook Live. It's always good to see you, sir.
Likewise, sir. Likewise. Always good to be amongst Uncle Funky's family and the Radio 1 family, and just a really important topic here today. So thank you all for being civic-minded and allowing us to come and talk to you today. It's great.
You've worked with our next guest a lot. He's a wealth of knowledge, and actually is pinch hitting this afternoon for someone who couldn't make it. And you know me, I believe God don't make no mistakes, so we got the right man in the right position.
Amen.
John Gillian, welcome to Facebook Live.
I appreciate it, sir. I'm happy to be here.
Gentlemen, we have a voting problem, and for the life of me, and Mr. John and I were speaking before we went live, what is the problem with the low turnout with voting here in the city of Houston and Harris County? What's going on?
Well, I mean, to me, I think sometimes we deal with apathy and then lack of knowledge for just how important this is. And, you know, so many things are affected by the people that are in office. And if you don't vote, you're leaving it in the hands of someone else to make the decisions on the people that make the decisions on what happens to you in your city, in the county, and they do what they feel fit. And if we don't have a say in it, then you just have to live with it.
Judson, can you tell the audience how amazingly important it is because of the economic factor that is across the board?
Well, you know, as John stated, I mean, voting is tied to everything. You know, if you're talking about, you know, economic development for your community and you need some assistance from the city or the state or the county, it's a lot easier when the people that you've helped put in office under your conditions are in a position to reward your community with the benefits of what it needs to where it can become more economically viable. A safer community, a community where there's more opportunities for education. These things are tied to HISD, or they're tied to City of Houston, or they're tied to the state of Texas or the federal government. So, you know, making sure that your voice is being represented. This is that opportunity. This is when it matters most. And it is perplexing, you know, when you talk about, I think, 150,000 or so people have voted in a city of 2.5 million. You know, what gives? That's not even 10%. And you're going to be speaking for, you know, generations of laws to come that these folks will be passing on your behalf.
And you served on city council, correct?
I did. You know, we have term limits. I only served 6 years, but in the early 90s, you know, I was doing what I could do to make sure that I was being reflective of the voices that were talking to me about things that we needed. Matter of fact, as John may recall, that's when the Across the Track PAC was formed. This organization now is empowering the Urban League and many of our elected officials or want to be elected officials, making sure their voices are heard for what the business community in Houston, the Black business community in Houston needs. And of course, it's very difficult to get elected without someone supporting your campaign. So the stronger these business individuals are, the better position they are to empower those who are running for office. So it all works in a big circle. Yeah, but I got a chance to serve. I followed behind my mother and my father in Houston politics, and it was an honor. But you know, we have a lot of work to do.
And John, while we're sitting right on top with you, why don't you tell us about Across the Track PAC?
Well, the Across the Track PAC is a group of Black business owners that was formed back in '95, as Justin was saying, back in the '90s, to have a better political presence and advocate more for our community. And so we just felt that it was important that we have a voice and understand the political part of it. Because being business owners, you employ a lot of people in this community. And so their lives are severely affected by what goes on. So just wanted to have a presence with that.
So we're about to say goodbye to one of the most charismatic mayors I think the city's had in our generation. Um, and a choice between Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and State Senator John Whitmire. And for those old enough, the Whitmire name goes all the way back to his former sister-in-law, Kathy Whitmire, who served as mayor. I've seen the ads. It's just kind of been ho-hum to me. Is it because there's no super urgency? Mayor Turner has put some things in place. You know, folk will have their opinion, be good or bad, but there seems to be a sense of calm. Well, except for the rise in crime. But welcome to the big city. But is it just that it's just so relaxed that no one thinks that either Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee or State Senator John Whitmire are going to do anything different? And so therefore, it doesn't matter who they vote for, or if they don't vote at all, it's all going to stay the same.
Well, I'll take a stab at it. I mean, I think that, you know, all the polls that I've seen, all the surveys that are done, you know, they talk about the kind of the bread and butter issues that people are concerned about, and they're not sexy issues. We don't have anything that's really, you know, super compelling. I mean, it's crime, and that is important that we reduce it, but that's the number one thing that people are talking about, and we don't have any particular crime stat to point to. Well, a high-profile thing happened in Houston, and it really kind of got people emotionally engaged. And without emotion in elections, it's just really, really tough. People are concerned, especially in the Black community. You know, one of our number one issues beyond crime is housing, affordable housing. You know, that's a big, big deal. We have so many folks of color that are on the streets with no place to live, and the affordability ratio is getting worse. So, you know, that's a major thing that we've got to figure out. But again, it's not, you know, I think homelessness has become so commonplace that we're, you know, it's kind of like the mass shootings in America these days. You know, you wake up and you find out there's another one. It's not nearly as shocking as it was 5 years ago, right? So, you know, we see people every day that we have, you know, we give to United Way or you know, Lord of the Streets or whatever, but you know, you just really can't afford to help everyone. So you do what you can, and you just kind of keep it moving because it has become, unfortunately, normalized.
Yeah,
Yeah, good, John.
I would just like to add to that. I mean, I think that we've become numb, and that's where the apathy comes from. But what I just want to stress, though, is that right now we have an opportunity because with the low turnout, if a big block of voters comes out in either way or supports anything, your vote counts much more in this runoff election because there's so few people voting that if you get out there on election day and cast your votes, you can make the difference on who gets these positions.
So, Johnson, to be clear for those who may be checking in, who can vote, who can't vote? Where are the boundaries? It's the mayor and city council, or are there other entities on the ballot?
Yeah, there's the mayor's race, of course. There's several runoffs you need to pay attention to. There's some of the surrounding cities that also have runoffs that'll be decided on Saturday. You know, I ran into a person last week, and I said, "How'd you do in the election?" I hadn't heard. She says, "My election's not until March." So a lot of the judges and whatnot, those are not. You're not going to find them on this election ballot. But you got to be of voting age, and if you voted in the previous elections, there's no reason you can't vote in this one. And as John stated, it is a matter of who shows up. This city is 40+% Hispanic, and it's 20+% African American, and if we get the turnout, chances are we can still vote for the candidate we think is going to best represent our interests. But you've got to take it upon yourself. Don't look at the poor numbers. When Mayor Turner won, he won by less than 1,000 votes in the runoff. It was a 50% to 49% runoff. There was 13 original candidates in the election, and when it boiled down to just the two, every vote counted. And John and Funky, I'm sure y'all remember, what was happening in the streets. They were knocking on every door. There were signs everywhere. There were cars going up and down with speakers on. I mean, we were pushing, and so we cannot, take this for granted. Even if it were, a more emotional race. It's not right now, but we can make it that, because while your opponent is taking this for granted, if you instead take somebody else to the poll with you and just don't do your part, but do a little bit more, we can make sure that the people that represent our interests are reflected at City Hall and other places.
That thing of assumption, that thing of apathy, that thing of, oh, we got this, Sheila gonna do this, man. I remember John Whitmire when he was da-da-da. It's interesting how that attitude or that mindset is just present. It's like we care, but we don't care enough to go do it. And it's all of a 15-minute process, if that.
No, it's not crowded at the polls, so you can go vote in 5 minutes. It won't take a whole 15 minutes. You can vote in 5 minutes, I promise.
But you got to do it on Saturday now.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Now, is this shift on the date? Was this a part of the big suppression movement we all heard about, or is this a change, or is this a normalcy in the race?
Well, for Black people and most people of color who are hourly or shift workers and work Monday through Friday, sun up to sundown, this is probably a plus for us. What we lost were some of the early voting days and some of the other opportunities to make it easier to vote, like 24-hour voting and drive-through voting, which was really helpful to the people I just described. Taking seniors to the polls, stay in your car. They don't want to walk. They don't want to stand in the sun. They don't want to, all those things matter to an older demographic, which of course we are that as well. So, people are very strategic in how they figure out ways to suppress the vote, Uncle Funky. And we've got to be just as strategic as John was just saying, that if everybody's taking it for granted that people aren't going to turn out, my God, turn out. So that's a simple strategy we could all follow.
And it's interesting to me that some of the same old issues are still the same old issues, like the dumping in certain parts of the city and the cancer corridor and these spots of these energy fields. And it's kind of talked about for a 15-minute run, and then it goes away. And is someone being paid not to talk, or we're taking money from all these big companies to stay quiet, or kind of how do people not get upset about this to where they just in front of City Hall screaming?
They're just tuned out, I think. In a lot of instances, they feel like that it doesn't affect their lives in any way, and it really does, which is the sad part about it.
Yeah, I think the word that you used, John, was numb.
No.
It's like, are people going to really respond? And is City Hall going to return my phone call? The state, we hear all these things about Governor Abbott and all the things he's doing to change the education system and to push for vouchers. And it sounds like they're elected, but they're not listening to the electorate anymore. They're listening only to themselves and a small handful of people. And That's why we need a kind of a sea change movement to really wake people up. And I'm thankful for this opportunity to talk to people a little bit today. But we've got our work cut out for us. It's this is a big city. It's 640 square miles, and people got lots of stuff to do. They're busy. They got other things going on in their life, and not putting the amount of energy and effort to understanding how critical this is. One of the most important things you can do. This is about you and your family and generations to come. You've got to get engaged in this stuff. It's not going away. It'll only get worse if you sit on the sidelines. It'll only get worse. I guarantee you that.
And Mr. Robinson has taught us that it starts at the local level. This is really where you want to make a difference. You want to get involved, because for umpteen years, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but I always see a news story about District D and dumping. And I wondered if I could talk to the Urban League or maybe the PAC about opening a recycling plant in that area where you don't have to dump stuff in the ground. You can take it and have it recycled. I've seen a business opportunity, and just my own dumbness for not moving on it, but could that happen? Could we build a recycling plant so these people don't have to leave their neighborhood and come to mine and dump? Or if you're coming to my neighborhood, okay, let me put a couple of food trucks out for you. I'm gonna have a place of entertainment, and you can bring as much stuff as you want to dump and take it to my recycling plant, and we'll call it a day. Because we don't have much. I mean, bring me back, Mr. Robinson, if I'm going off the deep end. But
no, it's germane to the point. Who wants to hear what you're talking about? Somebody who's experienced the same thing as you have, feels like it ought to be a priority. Someone else might say, well, priority might be on traffic. I really want to see the city reduce traffic. And that's important. Matter of fact, that's one of those other things, the environment, traffic, the local economy, crime, like I said, that's number one. But, where is dumping on the list? Why isn't that a higher priority? Well, it's not a higher priority because the people that are elected aren't, in tune with what you're talking about. So when we research our candidates and determine, that's why we have all these forums and these opportunities to meet and hear from our candidates. You've got to get involved in that. Who's going to represent? And you can ask them publicly, where are your priorities as it relates to dumping? And if they don't have the right answer, then you move on to the next one, right? But that again is, the Urban League now is we have a department now called the Center for Social Justice and Education. Matter of fact, I'm really kind of speaking on their behalf today. But that's the department that's now focusing in on what does social justice really look like? How do we educate people about, getting involved in voting? Let me educate you about what happens at City Hall. Let me educate you about what happens at the state level. What do county commissioners do? How can I serve on a board or a commission? We've got to become engaged at all levels. There's all kinds of committees. I serve on a TERS board in the Uptown District. That's the Galleria. We get money to ensure that the Galleria is a beautiful place. We can build roads. We can create parks. We can do infrastructure improvements. And guess what? It keeps the tax dollars flowing into that area. So there are ways that we can be involved without being elected officials. And that's a volunteer thing that I have to do on a monthly basis. But you too can be involved in all types of, campaigns are always looking for volunteers. And once they realize that you're actually a sincere volunteer, guess what? You might be elected to the Parks Board or to the municipal mud district or something of that. You just never know. But you've got to get engaged and get involved. And that's, what John and I have been doing for a long time this time.
Yeah. Sounds like you need to care.
Yeah.
Need to care.
One of the things that, let me just interject here, is that, and we some older guys that have been in the struggle for a long time, and but one thing that's going to be coming in 2024, and hopefully we'll be able to work some of the Urban League on it, is we want to do a forum for young people. And what we want to do is to understand what their issues are, what is important to them. and to teach them how to come into this political process and how to affect the things around them, because we feel that it's also important, because we're tired. I mean, you know, and I mean, and the reality is, it's important for any organization or anybody to do succession planning and to have the people coming behind them learn. But you have to also find out what are the important things to them, you know, because when I talk to my sons who are in their 20s, you know, they have a whole different agenda. They are not thinking about the parks and this and that and whatever, you know. So I think that it's important that we do that, and that's one of the things that we recognize and that we're going to be doing in 2024 is to try to pull them into the process more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the E on the Center for Social Justice. The E is education.
Yeah.
You know, why does voting matter? Why does serving on the Parks Board matter? Why does volunteering in the campaign matter? Now, how do I build wealth through that process too?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
both are very concerned about the money, and I get it. So, you know, let's show them also the pathway to being around the right kind of folk that can help make their dreams a reality.
Absolutely.
Right? So that too is politics.
Yeah, absolutely. Who controls the money? Yeah. That's a good one.
Taking a creative stand and being able to show your elders and your peers, we took this dumping ground and turned it into an oasis. Someone's got to know that this is, well, I'm sure there's going to be a young person who didn't think that there's a way to make money. I didn't think about recycling, Uncle Larry. That's why I said it, because that's a viable business, and we don't have enough of that in this area, in my opinion. Right. So, yeah. And these two gentlemen online are men who can connect you to the money to start that. So I'm already screaming to the creative groups and the mind changes and the young men and women who have turned America or going to turn America in a different way. And I'm speaking specifically of my young hip hoppers who for 2 consecutive years sold out dates at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, which was unbelievable. Over 75,000 young folks showed up. Right. To some of the best voices in America. They're homegrown, but having been a lifetime member of the Livestock Show, I know that was a change of, you know what, we got to do something because we're losing money, and the hip hop genre is so universally accepted, it makes a lot of money sense. So again, I'm just appealing to the folk who are listening, who are going to think about maybe we can start this business or start this company, but you're going to need the politics so you can get the right zoning permits, right, or and everything you're going to need, or whatever other funding comes with it. And the brick, the mortar, the pipes, the electronics, the tools, the security, the fencing, the widening of the roads, all that has to go through somebody's office, right?
Yeah. Well, and the one thing that people don't realize, and just you bring a good point, is there are monies available in government. There are monies available that have been put aside to start businesses, to have home ownership. All of the things that are important to young people where you think, okay, well, I'm just going to fend for myself. But there are ways and opportunities for you to go out there and get monies that are already there. You just need to know how to connect to them to get your business started, to get your home, to get, you know, all of these services for your kids and this type of thing. So it's there. Go, let's connect to it and do our thing.
That's right.
Child, I'm sorry, Justin.
I was just going to say, you know, to put meat on that bone, the Urban League, you know, has a program if you're ready to buy your first home, where there's down payment assistance, but you got to sit through my class. You sit through the class, and then you could get anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 towards your down payment assistance. And the people who put that $5,000 to $25,000 program in place are elected officials. So in order for you to have the benefit of somebody who represents the fact that you might not have enough money for your down payment, you better go vote. because that person is going to help you if you can get them elected into office. So it's a reality. John is so right. And Larry, you're right too. We've got to somehow merge that generation. As John said, we're older now. The way that we moved and shook, those things are changing now. We've got to get the Bundys and all of our friends who we know who are local Houston folk and have access to these new populations of people who think a little bit differently. We've got to tie the two together. We got to bring the benefit of what they bring, the knowledge and the history of what we bring, and make something good for our people happen. That just makes good sense.
We need clean water. We need safe roads. We need safe neighborhoods. We got to get rid of these food deserts and access to fresh fruits and vegetables for the two young men who have put themselves in an old category that I will not put myself in. They speaking for them.
I didn't say old, seasoned.
And that's what Mama called it, seasoned citizens. But the truth of the matter is, we have to get. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't want to say we have to do anything. What I would like to encourage you to do is grab a group of like-minded folk and begin to plan, because these things are open for you. It's not going to run itself. There are men and women of various backgrounds and degrees and colors and nationalities who assist this city in the growth process. They meet with hundreds of thousands of contractors and money people around the world to get people to invest that money into the city of Houston. And some of that money has your name on it. Some of that money for Harris County has your name on it. But you can't sit on the side and say, well, I'm not voting. I'm not going to go vote. And that's got nothing to do with me. But it does. Because you voted for, let's just say, ABC won the election. And Mr. Mayor, I would like to sit down to you because this part of my city is being underrepresented. You can do that. Just have your ducks in order, but you can express yourself in front of the mayor. I think people like to say you talk to power. I talk straight. You sit down, you have a conversation with the mayor, and let's see what happens. Or your city council person. And when that doesn't work, you don't cower down. You come back the next day and you knock on the door and you say, sir, ma'am, what about this dumping? And you got to have that kind of fire. You got to have that kind of want to make a difference. And that's what I'm encouraging, because you'll spend the money to see all of our top artists, as you should if you want to. I would like for you to have a different mindset, shift a little bit in their thinking, and to say, man, I would like to clean up this old neighborhood, or what can we possibly build here? Can I put my business here? Can we build a private school here?
And when you're empowered, Larry, you can say to the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, we'd like $1.50 of every ticket sold and every vendor to pay a little fee to be on the property, and all that money goes to eradicating dumping in 5th Ward, Sunnyside, 3rd Ward, wherever the case may be. But you've got to be at the table. You've got to be the voice in the room. You've got to be that elected body, and sometimes, a volunteer who's risen to the ranks of authority, much like you have at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. There's very few Black people who are involved in the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. And that's one of the largest economic development programs in the year of every year. Mm-hmm. Is the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Millions and millions of dollars is spent, dispersed amongst all kinds of companies, etc. So there's, if you have a voice, you have leverage. But you got to be involved.
If you have a voice, you have leverage. John, is there a simple way to motivate? Is there a clear answer to this, or we just have to sit through one of the lowest turnouts in history?
Well, what I would say is, we're at the last hour right now, but what I would say is call 5 of your friends, tell them to call 5, and tell them and spread it out, and all of you go vote. and see if the person that you voted for gets in. And then, just as what we just talked about, go and tell them, look, we voted for you. We got you in. And these are some of the issues that I actually have. You have the right to do that with anyone, any elected official that's going to be in office. And guess what? And oh, by the way, your choice is, if they say don't respond to you in the next election cycle, say I'm going to get my same block of friends and try to get a bigger block of friends and support the candidate that's running against you. And I guarantee you, you'll be listened to. Right. And so you have to know how to leverage, what you have. And your vote is a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing, whether you know it or not. And so just trust me on this one. I mean, I'm just go and click the lever and see how much power it is. And then you get a block of friends in this election. Also, controller is on there as well. On the ballot as well. Right. So I mean, the person making decisions on the money, is on the ballot as well this time. And so just make sure that your voice is heard. That's what I would say.
That's an interesting job. Justin, were you comptroller, or can you explain to us what that job does?
Yeah, the comptroller, I was not comptroller, I was a city council at large, considered running for comptroller. But that's the guy that manages the checkbook. So just imagine if you come to your wife or your spouse, you say, I want to buy XYZ. And then the comptroller, wife, checks the checking account and says, we don't have the money, or, you told me about that earlier. We put that in the budget. So we got that there. So we can take care of that. Let's move forward. So look at it as that person. He's the one that makes sure that the city's bond rating is high. So when we go to borrow money, we're not so far leveraged in debt to where the people who give us the money, they say, well, you already got too much debt, Uncle Funky. I can't give you no more, right? So you got to make sure that, he's almost like the traffic cop. The mayor and the council can spend if they want to, unless there's someone that's saying, wait a minute, that's not what we agreed to. We have a consolidated plan. We have all these things we budgeted for. Now, this is something new. And you got to set aside the emergency money. So we have our next flood, or our next freeze, our next hurricane. He's got to remind people, these things happen in Houston. So, no, we're not going to, but, it's always about the vote. So if the mayor and everybody overwhelms them, then they've got to go with it. But he's the voice, he's the conscience of the financial watchdog for the city of Houston. And we've got, some excellent candidates who are looking at that. I encourage you to take a look at who these people are. And again, you might see someone who represents some of your interests. And that's important. It's really important. So as Larry said, as John Embo Larry said, this is on us, y'all. This is really on us. There's, I think about our golf tournament, Funk, and, we play that golf tournament, John, at Wildcat. Yeah, we miss you this year. We'll catch you next year. But we play.
You don't want me to dig the course up.
Couldn't be any worse than what I did. So
right. Same here. But the history of the Wildcat is it was a toxic waste dump, and some creative people got together and figured out how to make it a beautiful golf course. Imagine that you're playing on top of a toxic waste. So anything's possible. And the right people in charge of the money and the vision.
It is an outstanding golf course, and it's just fascinating as you mentioned, over 600 square miles to this massive city, and you can be here and not be here, and no one would ever miss you. It's just one of the greatest secrets on the planet is this place that we live in, and I'm really kind of disappointed that we didn't have a wider variety of candidates. We like to tell the world about our diversity, but we kind of come down to the same old names and the same old faces. Why is that? No one wants to run?
Well, I will say that experience matters. We oftentimes, think about any position that's in the workforce. You want, in many cases, a person who, brings a little something to the table, that's done it before, that knows a little bit about what they're doing, understand, because that learning curve is that's time, right? And that's people playing game on you and all kinds of stuff that can take place during that learning curve. So, I get the need for fresh ideas and all that. So, but let's balance it. Let's make sure that we don't, throw out, 30 years of experience with something that's bad. That there's lots of good in having experience. Lucky you are a award-winning, world-class, Hall of Fame. All those things are in your title description, brother. And you didn't get that just by showing up. You've been on the scene for a minute, right. And so you're just going to have that. People feel like I should now take my skill set to a different level and run for a different office. That's pretty natural. I don't think you'll ever see that go away. But fresh ideas, new faces, get in there. You got to start somewhere. So you need a blend of both. You really need a blend of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also, just with this being a local election, you have more effect in your local politics than you do on the national stage. I mean, it looks like we might have the same two guys running for president again with the same idea. I mean, and I think that partly that national scene gives you some form of apathy because people just tune that out because you have an echo chamber over here, people saying the same thing to each other and the same thing on this side. But I think that where your vote counts even more is on a local level to where you have access directly to the people that are making the decisions. And so as it relates to the folks that are there, I mean, I'm very impressed with, some of the new people that are part of the process. And, and even in the last election, you think about all of the things that Judd mentioned about voting overnight, voting, 24 hours, doing all this. Chris Hollins brought all of that stuff, and it was never done before. And they took that stuff and took it national. Mm-hmm. And that affected the presidential election across the board. And so now this voter suppression is a retaliation against those policies that were put in place across the nation, which allowed access to more people to vote. And so some people's political aspirations are to suppress the vote because it gives one party a better chance to win versus the other. So, I mean, you have to understand the game within the game as to what's going on. But just understand, I mean, there are some very bright people that are in this process right now.
I thought that those two pieces to allow more people to vote, especially the 24-hour, that was genius.
Yeah.
And what makes me laugh about the whole argument against is it allowed more people, period, not just people of color, people, period, who
right.
vote. There's a number of people who work at a plant on the third shift that it's indifferent than the other number of people, and they had access to go vote just as well. So he didn't say, okay, all brown and black people can only vote overnight or do this with your grandmama on Sunday. It was open to all.
Yes.
That's the kind of innovation that I was speaking about. And I'm sure we're going to put that back in place because it became convenient. And we're people of convenience. We like convenience. And it was fresh off of the pandemic or during the pandemic. And I said, this is good.
It's called democracy. That's the way it was designed to work. Is that everybody participate in who governs them. And so, yeah.
All right. Well, we're coming up on the close, and we've got to stimulate, motivate, and get the word out about Saturday. So how does this work, John? What do we? Is it a specific location, or all polls open if you show your credentials, or do you have to vote in your district or in your area?
I believe that you can vote anywhere. I mean,
Anywhere.
Judge probably be a better person to answer that question. But
yeah, but I just be safe. Go to where you vote all the time. That's the place to go. And that's all these rule changes and whatnot, brothers and sisters. We just got back from Austin for suing Governor Abbott and the state of Texas what they did with SB1. And I'm only able to do that because John and others help support the Urban League so that the Center for Social Justice can have a representative that can get up there and give testimony and go through all the trial prep and stuff that we had to do. Whether or not we win the case, we don't know, but we should be in a position whereby, a group of people in Austin made a decision that was bad for the people that we're describing that needed the 24-hour voting and all that. But if we don't have the votes in Austin because we didn't put them there, then here's where we find ourselves. I'm investing time and energy and stuff that we shouldn't be doing. It's the opposite of democracy that y'all just talked about. But if we don't vote at all levels, every election matters. Every election matters. Please go vote Saturday. Please. Please, please, please.
Polls open up at 7 a.m. They close at 7 p.m. I am hopeful that the more than 8 people that came out this last swing will come out. A city this size, it's embarrassing, really.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing because we talk up Houston so much, and then the driving force that energy right at Smith and Walker, that hub, and 10 people voted. I'm like, well,
yeah,
here we are.
Well, use your Google where it is that you should vote. Go ask your neighbor. Go outside and go next door and tell your neighbor to come with you and go vote. It's going to take 15 minutes. Y'all round up 4 people and go. So, I mean, this thing can be, we can still have a good turnout if you act now. Everybody knows how to Google, put your zip code in there and your address or whatever and say, where do I vote? And go and do it.
I think the weather's going to be all right, so that shouldn't be a problem. And even if it is a little wet, so what?
Yeah, we vote inside. You vote inside.
Yeah, all right. Don't vote outside in the rain.
Get out early.
So John, before we leave, so would you let all of our fans on Facebook know exactly what you do and who you represent and how they can find you?
Well, in this capacity, I'm representing the Across the Track PAC, and again, it's local business owners that employ hundreds of people in the community, and we are active in the political process of ensuring that our voices are heard from a business standpoint. And understanding what's needed for not only us, our businesses, but also the community at large. So we just appreciate the opportunity to be able to come on and speak about this. But just the important thing is that exercise your right and go out and vote. Whoever it is you vote for. We're not telling you to vote for this person, that person. Vote who you think will represent you best.
Mr. Robinson, I know you have to run, but I'll give you the last word, please.
Well, every day, all of us get the chance to be a blessing to others. I fortunately get paid to do that. So I'm involved in making sure that people are getting out to vote, that they're starting a business, that they're getting promoted to the next grade level, that they are acquiring their first home. And it's a blessing, but we can all be a blessing to others. So I just encourage you, just like the Urban League does, to try to make a difference in the lives of our people, that you do it by going out and voting.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. For our Facebook listeners on Radio 1's Magic 102.1 and 97.9 The Box, this is Uncle Funk, Larry Jones. Be blessed and get out and vote. Saturday, 7 a.m. we open, 7 p.m. we close. And make your voice heard.
Peace.